This episode of Deep in the Weeds is proudly supported by Cookaborough, making it easy to start, run and grow a ready-made meals business.
When people ask the question, what is Cookaborough? The way I describe it is it's a platform that's designed to make it easy for a home cook, local food store, chef, catering company, whatever it might be, make it easy and provide an end-to-end solution for them to start and run and grow their ready-made meals or home-cooked meals business.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Hospitality venues and food stores have always been about connection, whether providing a space for people to break bread or creating connections with the local community as a hub for sustenance and social interaction. Technology, at first glance, seemed far removed from that human-to-human connection, but the last few years have changed that mindset as tech companies emerge with a focus on that all-important heart of hospitality, connection. Nick Lewis is the co-founder of Cookaborough. Nick, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Huck.
Tech is seen as cold, data-based businesses, but that's not true of the emerging tech companies like yours.
No, it's not. I think what we have built and what we've sort of put our focus on is creating software that makes life easier for a food business owner. But at the same time as making life easier for the food business owner through technical platform and clever engineering and features and functions. One of the things we're very mindful of is the importance of maintaining that connection between the cook or the business owner and their end customer. And the starting point for Cookaborough was really a local home cook that we were using, and we saw the connection between this local cook and her customers, and at the same time we saw how hard it was for her to be doing what she was doing. But in helping her and building a solution, the one thing we kept hearing from her was the importance of not losing that connection between herself and her customers. So at the same time that we've been trying to build clever tech, we've also been trying to build clever tech that keeps that connection alive.
Well, you mentioned that just briefly the start of Cookaborough. Take us back to that story and how it all began.
Yeah, okay. So the background to Cookaborough, there's three co-founders in the business. So it's myself, there's Lyndon Galvin and then Larissa Lewis, who's also my wife. So my family and Lyndon's family, we were living on the same street. We were neighbours. I think we were about sort of 3 or 4 doors apart, and we had this great little sort of collection of households and friends, and our door was open to their door, and the kids would be running in and out each day. And at a certain point in time, we started cooking meals for each other each week as a way to sort of make it easier on each household, and not to have to worry about meal prep every night of every day of every week. So we would take it in turns once a week of cooking for a couple of other households, and it was really a great way to sort of build the connection between the neighbours, but also just to lighten the load of busy lives. And it also meant that we were getting good food on the table that was home cooked, but you just weren't having to cook it yourself. And we did that for a little while, but even that started to become a challenge as people suddenly couldn't cook one week and trying to change schedules and move things around. So that led us to finding a local home cook. So this was a lady who was working out of her registered home kitchen, and each week she would send out a menu via email to her customer base, and there would only ever be 2 items on the menu each week. So it was really, really small, and they'd just be sort of family-friendly meals. And she would send this email out and say, this is what I'm cooking this week, and you'd get the email pretty much at the same time every week, and she'd give you 2 or 3 days to order your meals. And then a few days after that, you'd either go and pick up your meals or she would deliver them to your door. And we loved it because what it meant was that each week on a, let's say a Wednesday or a Thursday, we'd place an order for meals that we knew were going to arrive early the following week. And then for the cook, it meant that she was able to only ever cook what was ordered. By only having a few items on the menu, she was able to be in control of what she cooked. She could have dedicated cooking time and then really make it work through the efficiencies of no food wastage. But at the same time that she was doing that, we could also see just how difficult it was for her. And, we got to know her well because she would deliver meals each week. And we started to identify that as great as it was, she was also having lots of challenges with managing her business and all the administration side of it. And from that led us to sort of sit down and go, well, actually, maybe there's an opportunity here to build something that would help a business like this. And if we did build it, is it something that could be used not just by the local home cook, but is it something that could be used by food stores, catering companies, chefs, anyone that's wanting to start their own food business under what we call a ready-made meals or a batch model of cooking.
What were the challenges when you first were getting started with Cookaborough?
The challenges for us were, we were all working in our day jobs, and we were doing other things, and so it really started as an idea, and. The challenge then is, do you have the level of conviction to I guess, give up the safety and security of what you're doing, and step off the ledge and start to build your own thing. So, in the very early days, having the confidence and the courage to start something from nothing was definitely the biggest challenge. So even with a strong belief in the idea, it was still only an idea, and you think, is this going to work? Isn't going to work? And giving up day jobs and all the security of that with young families, that was certainly a challenge. And the other thing that it was both a positive and also something that sort of kept us awake at night was when we were looking at starting Cookaborough and thinking about the idea and mapping it all out, we had a look around to see if anyone else was doing what we were doing, not just locally in Australia, but we looked around into other markets, and we couldn't see anyone else doing what we thought would work. So that was both exciting because you go, hey, here's a great opportunity to do something that no one else is doing. And then on the other hand, you're like, well, hang on, no one else is doing this, so maybe it's not a good idea. So we definitely had massive moments of doubt and uncertainty in the early days. And then once we made the decision to do it, which meant, as I said, giving up our paid jobs and starting to fund the business from our own savings, the challenge then just becomes about, where do you start? How do you build something that doesn't exist yet? There's literally just three of you and an idea. So that was certainly also one of the challenges, was just getting started and thinking about the team and thinking about what do you do first, what do you do second, and not getting overwhelmed with what at times felt like an enormous task. And to do that, we took it one step at a time. We set short-term goals. We identified sort of what our priorities were, even down to a weekly level, and then from weekly to monthly and from monthly to quarterly. And I think by breaking it down and then making continual progress, it always felt like we were heading in the right direction and moving forward.
As you were building the business in those early days, were there some early success stories which really helped shape the business that you can tell us about? Yeah,
there were. We had so the business. We started the business in middle to sort of late 2019. So that's when we went full steam ahead with it, and the process for us was to spend time with some different business owners, so some home cooks, local food store owners, a couple of chefs, etc., to really sort of map out and understand what we call the user journey. So that's all the things that you'd need to have in order to run a ready-made meals business under our batch model. And so we built that, and we built what you'd call sort of like a prototype or an MVP. And we're now talking sort of late 2019. We gave it over, or we put it into the hands of a couple of home cooks that were doing their small micro businesses. And we did a little onboarding process with them, which didn't take too long, and then they then started to run their businesses through our platform. So they went from the ways that they had been doing their business to using the Cookaborough platform, and immediately the response from them was, this is fantastic. And it was fantastic in that it was saving them time. in terms of all the administration and struggles and hassles that they'd previously been having. And it was also helping them grow their business and get more customers. So we had some immediate success there. And then, as we all know, early 2020, the world changed. And for us, I guess, with COVID and the lockdowns, we're one of the lucky ones in terms of it helped us in a way that it allowed us to talk to some food business owners that might not have otherwise been particularly interested in thinking about and looking at new ways of doing things. And we were able to have conversations. And in those early days of 2020, for example, we met with a very prestigious catering company in Melbourne called Blake's Feast. And they had previously, as a catering company, obviously heavily reliant on events, and everything in that space disappeared overnight. They had previously thought about doing ready-made meals as a pillar of their business, but had found it too hard. Under the circumstances of losing all the catering side of their business, we were able to have a conversation with them. And as I recall it was literally, I think, sort of within 24 or 48 hours, we'd onboarded them. We'd got their recipes in. We'd created their first menu. They had communicated to their customers through social media what they were doing, and they published their first menu, and sales, came in immediately. And then each week since then, they have published their menu at the same time each week, and their menu closes at the same time each week. And over the course of what's coming up to 2 years, they have grown a entirely new pillar of their business under the banner of Blakeaway. They have gone from using our platform for their online orders and their weekly menu to now also having a store in Church Street in Brighton, another one in Armidale. I think they've got a pop-up in Portsea over the summer months. So it's become a phenomenal success for them, underpinned by the software that Cookaborough provides. So that was one great success story. Another story that we're really proud of is around the same time, we saw an article written by Danny Valente about Andrea Vignali, who was a chef that was out of work. He was previously working at Grossi Florentino. He was out of work. His visa status meant that he was getting no assistance, and he started to make and sell pasta online through Instagram. And we reached out via Danny and got an introduction, and we got Andrea up on the platform. And I think as the story goes, he came to us with $200 in his pocket. A few weeks later, he'd published a menu, was making a few $1,000s a week in sales. And then as the story goes, he went from doing it out of his home kitchen to finding a kitchen in a hospitality venue that had closed down, right through to now where he, along with his business partner, Davide and Michelle, they've opened up Al Dente on Nicholson Street in Carlton, and they've got the restaurant, they've got their food store, and they continue to do their weekly menu on the Cookaborough platform. So in that instance, we've given birth to a really successful business and enabled Andrea and his team to create something that, perhaps wouldn't have otherwise existed or would have taken a lot longer to build. And, as you know, setting up a food business takes a lot of capital investment. There's a lot of risk associated with it, but we provided a pathway that sort of de-risked that for him.
Well, let's look at that pathway. What is Cookaborough and how does it work?
So Cookaborough is a platform that has been designed to provide an end-to-end solution to anyone who wants to run a ready-made meals or a home-cooked meals business. So what we mean by an end-to-end is that the platform literally does everything you need to make it easy to start, run or grow this type of business. So we spent time with as I said before, cooks and chefs and home cooks, and we mapped out and understood all the requirements of it. So what our platform does, it's the back end of these businesses. They create ingredient lists, and from their ingredient lists, they create recipes and put their recipes in. It stores their recipes, and then once they've got their recipes in, they can create meals. And there's all intelligence behind this. So when you create your recipe, our system will automatically create compliant food labels, right through to being able to schedule and publish weekly menus, have connection, a CRM system that keeps you connected to your customers, right through to functionality that allows these food businesses, for example, to cater towards people that are on the NDIS or on home care pack. So that's what it does. It operates under what we call a smart batch model. So every business that uses the platform, whether they're the chef that's starting their own direct-to-consumer business, the catering company, the local food store, each one of them each week will use the platform to create and publish their weekly menu. That menu's open for a set period of time, typically 3 to 4 days, but it's entirely up to the business owner as to what they think their right cycle is. Then the menu closes and they get towards production, and then there'll be a single point in time of pickup and delivery. So that's what we've built. There's too many features and functions. When we originally built it, we thought, we'll start here and we'll finish here, and then we'll have a finished product. And of course, what's happened as we've built it, and as different people have used the platform, and as we get to know the business owners and they give us feedback, there's inevitably more and more features and functions. So we've continued to build upon it in a smart way. And when I say a smart way, we really make sure that we keep a connection to the business owners, and we're talking to them on a daily and weekly basis, and we're discovering challenges and requirements. And then we've got a fantastic team of developers, and we sit down with them, and together we solve the challenges of the business owners to provide functions that help them operate their businesses.
Your career took you all over the globe in a marketing sense with your roles with various companies. But there was always this underlying theme of connection, like you explained, with the families in your neighbourhood. What sort of role has food played in your life from when you were young?
Yeah, growing up, food was definitely part of my everyday life in terms of it was an important part of everyday life, and it also punctuated sort of key moments and celebrations, the obvious things like birthdays, Christmas, that type of thing. But I guess what I remember most vividly about food as a kid growing up was that inevitable cry of, Mum, what's for dinner? Probably 5 o'clock every day. And that would be followed by either a cheer or a moan as Mum would, tell us what was for dinner. And if it was burgers and lasagna or a stir fry, we'd be cheering. And if it was fish or, stuffed capsicum or something like that, it probably got a moan. So, that was sort of how I grew up. And we pretty much always ate as a family. And I'm talking about sort of around the table at dinner time, and it was a moment to share the events of our day and catching up on each other's news. And it's really, I guess, you take those things for granted when you're growing up, but it was a traditional household, and my dad would come home from work and Mum would have dinner ready, and together we'd eat. And in fact, I can remember Dad would typically call. He worked in the city in an office, and I think the last thing he would do before he left the office each day was to call us and tell us that he was on the way home. And that meant we had 30 minutes to, set the table and get dinner ready. And he'd come in and we'd sit down together and eat as a family. And Mum was a great cook. So, the food was always good. It was always made with love. She would try different things. The cupboards were full of cookbooks and recipes on scraps of paper. And that was kind of the way we grew up. And I remember then, dinner time as a family was both unremarkable in terms of its daily routine and sameness, but it was also great moments of laughter and connection as a family, and I can also distinctly remember the occasional fiery discussions and debates, and I guess that's the beauty of coming together around food, whether it's a small family at dinner time or moments of celebration. It's time dedicated to connection and conversations. And as a parent now, I love dinner time. I've got teenage daughters. It's hard to pin them down and get any time with them. So, we make it a daily habit to sit down together and to have conversation. And, sometimes the conversation's really engaging, super interesting, talking about current issues. Sometimes we're all on the same same side of a discussion, and other times we're not. And, even on those occasions, dinner can actually be cut short sometimes. When you've got teenage daughters that might have a different point of view, they're up and out of the room very quickly if you say the wrong thing. But look, food has been a moment of connection and conversation and discussion, both at a family level and then with friends and certainly around sort of key moments. I never used to go out to restaurants either. I think that's probably not relatively new, but certainly when I was growing up, going out to a restaurant was an infrequent thing, and it was very much a special occasion. So I think for me it was birthdays. Where do you want to go for dinner? And I remember that I used to always choose Rob's Carousel on Albert Park Lake for those that know that. I don't think it's there anymore, but it wasn't about the food there. It was about the revolving floor. And that was enough to keep me happy.
Helping food businesses connect with the local community is what Cookaborough is all about. How important is community for Cookaborough?
I think community is really, really important, and it goes back to our own personal experience that I was talking about earlier on with with the home cook that we were using. That connection that the home cook had with her local customers was really sort of the essence of her business. And so for us, as we were embarking on the idea of building Cookaborough and looking at it as a piece of technology, it was how do we integrate and make sure that this piece of technology and all the smarts of it still enables a cook, and when I say cook, it's the business owner, but enabling the business owner to have that connection to their customers. So in our platform, that's, who your customers are. You see what they're ordering. You know how often they've ordered. You can see what their favourite meals are. You send out your weekly menu each week, and as part of sending out that weekly menu, the system encourages you to write about what's on that menu or share your story or why you're cooking what you're cooking this week. And, perhaps it's because at the market you saw something that caught your eye and it was in season. So that's how we try and keep that connection between the people, the businesses using our platform and enabling them to stay connected to their customers. And again, it just goes back to that sort of ethos of food, and food being a time to, come together and discuss and connect. And we want to enable that between the person that's actually making the food and creating it and the person that's at the other end enjoying it.
What surprised you about the journey so far?
In terms of surprise, look, things rarely go to plan. And what I mean by that is, one thing we've been really diligent about is the importance of having a vision and then having a plan and then executing that plan. And for the most part, we've stayed on track. But there are things that come along that are unpredictable. There are challenges. But I think what's been most gratifying and the thing that has sort of driven us to keep going, not that it was ever in any doubt that we would keep going, but the thing that really sort of fuels us is when we get a business on to Cookaborough, and remembering that, we haven't been around a long time, people don't know who we are, they haven't necessarily understood what we're doing. So, the journey of getting someone onto our platform can be very challenging because it's not established yet, and, they've got to get their head around a new way of doing things. But inevitably, when we get a business onto the platform, the business owner is so thankful for what we've built, the way it works, the way we work with them. And, it goes back to those stories around Breakaway, Al Dente, but even the local home cooks that we're working with and the food stores that we're working with. I use the word transformational. Some people don't like that word, and it sometimes doesn't feel appropriate, but we genuinely are sort of transforming how these different types of food businesses work, how they're able to work more efficiently, more profitably, realise new opportunities, but at the same time enable them to pursue their passion, do the thing that they love doing, which is most often it's the food, the creation, and the connection with their customers. So that's what we've found most gratifying and thrilling on the journey. And we've got a long way to go, but we certainly get a kick out of the impact we're having with the people that are using the platform.
Many people in the food industry have had to pivot and change and alter what they do to survive in the last 2 years. Do you think the food industry will change out of this adversity, and what are some of the positives that you're seeing?
I think yes, definitely the food industry will change, and I think we're already seeing that. I think from our perspective, we thought a lot of the changes that we're seeing were coming prior to COVID, and that's now accelerated. And what I mean by that is, we looked at sort of information showing that busy households would typically eat meals at home during the week, but there'd been a real shift towards most of those meals being being purchased from outside the home. So I think things like those trends have been accelerated through COVID, where people were in lockdown, eating at home, not wanting to cook every day. So they started to look for solutions and providers of at-home meals. I think there's probably a reluctance to live on takeaway every night of the week. It's just not what people want. So I think the shift towards looking for meal solutions and thinking about meal solutions, that it's not about what's for dinner tonight, but what's for dinner next week, and doing a bit more meal planning. And in doing that, looking for local providers. So rather than buying from frozen meals from the supermarket or doing meal kits, we think there's a huge opportunity for local food businesses to service their local market under this model. And I think people in the food industry, given what people have gone through over the last couple of years, I think you're more open-minded to looking at new ways to operate. If there's a new way to run your business that brings efficiencies to it, more predictability to the sales, allows you to reduce waste, improve your margins. I think the receptiveness to listening to those opportunities is much greater now than it would have been if we hadn't gone through the last 2 years. And so for us, that fortuitously gives us a platform to get the attention of different food businesses and introduce them to Cookaborough and show them what we're doing, and then hopefully get them on board. And the other thing we have as a business is we have a team dedicated to what we call customer success. So, if you do come onto the platform, it's not just a case of going, great, we've got another one. It's a case of going, okay, great, let's make sure we understand this business, who they are, what do they need, and then we work with them to make it a real success.
You took a leap of faith and started a company that you believed in. How has starting Cookaborough changed you?
Look, starting Cookaborough, prior to Cookaborough, I'd always, I guess, operated in a fairly safe space. I've worked in, large companies, large corporates. There was little risk associated with those positions. I think starting my own business has challenged me in ways I couldn't have anticipated. It becomes literally all-consuming. And that can be a dangerous thing because, life is more than work. I have a young family. I think my ability to manage my time for Cookaborough and growing that business, investing time, and investing is a horrible word to use in terms of investing time in my family, but spending time and being present with my family, and then also finding my own time for my own interests and mental health. That's been the challenge. And I think at times I've probably failed in that, as in the balance has been all about building Cookaborough to the detriment of family and to the detriment of myself. But in those moments, I'm mindful that the balance hasn't been right. And I've got a family that will also remind me that the balance is out of whack, and they're honest conversations. And when you're in those moments, you stop and you pause and you find ways to readjust. And, for me personally, last year was a very challenging, exciting year. I think 2022 is also shaping up that way. But with each day that the business is up and running and each day that it continues to grow and have success, it allows me just that little bit more time to put back into the other things, which really in the grand scheme of things are more important, myself and my family. So that's how it's challenged me. The other thing I've really, really personally enjoyed about the experience of Cookaborough is, it was just the founders to start with sitting around a table, and then we've built a team of people, and it's just, I don't know whether we've just got lucky. I don't know what it is, but we have just a great team of people. And the team of people, it's engineers, so software engineers. Some of them are graduates out of uni. Some of them have got years and years of experience, having worked at places like Canva and Atlassian. We've got people in sales and customer success, but we've just, and it's only a small team. It's about 15 people, but and we've worked remotely like everyone else, but it's just a great team of individuals who connect really well. They seem to love what they're doing, are passionate about it. And so I know Lyndon, Larissa and I every day are really, really sort of grateful for that team. And we're also proud that we've been able to build it and create an environment which to this point in time seems to be working well.
You've got home cooks and chefs and food stores all over the country using the platform. Do you have any favourites that you like to order from on the platform?
I do. I definitely do. I need to be careful here because it's we've put a lot of money into the cooks on Cookaborough from my house. Whenever a business comes on and they're servicing the area that we live in, we inevitably give them a go. I think the ones that we return to time and time again. There's a local cook, a lady by the name of Julie. We order from her every week, and it's true home cooked meals. And in fact, Julie's interesting in that she uses reusable packaging. So each week, on a Tuesday, Julie's on our doorstep with our order in glass or ceramic containers, and then it's just a swap and go. The next week or 2 weeks later, or whenever we next order, and then also we regularly find ourselves ordering from Breakaway and Al Dente. They've got excellent food. But there's also a lot of, there's an Indonesian cook on the platform that we order from occasionally. And as I think about it, there's probably another 4 or 5 that we're regulars of. Because again, it's just a great way for us as a busy house and busy family to get great food that essentially feels home cooked, made for you, fresh, on the table each week. And then there's a few cooks that we've got that aren't Melbourne based. There's one up in Bermagui. It's called Eastwoods of Bermagui. And I look at, it's Kelly Eastwood is her name. And I look at her menu every week that comes out and I think, geez, I wish I was up there and able to order from her food. And also the other thing we see with someone like Kelly is just the growth in her business and the same customers coming back week in, week out. So she's obviously doing something right with her food.
How do people get involved with Cookaborough?
At the moment, our focus is on talking to the business owners. So we're looking to bring on more food businesses. And the way that works is, if you're a food business and you're interested to know what running a ready-made meals or a take-home meal business looks like, the easiest thing to do is to go to our website, so cookaborough.com, and you can find out a little bit more information about us there. And there's some inquiry forms and you can just get in contact with us that way. And so that's our focus at the moment, and we're telling our story and sharing the success of the businesses that are using the platform. And then for the customer, when I say customer, I'm talking about the person that's ordering from the businesses using Cookaborough. We have a small function on our website where you can go in and put your postcode, and you'll find the local cooks in your area that service your area. One of the big things we've got planned for this year is to put more energy and time into building out that feature. So, we want every house on every street and every suburb to be coming to Cookaborough to find and connect with the cooks in their area that are, providing the food that captures their eye and, meets their dietary requirements and their taste. So, it's all basically off our website at the moment, whether you're a food business or whether you're looking for one to order from. That's where it's happening.
It's only been a couple of years, but it's been an extraordinary journey for Cookaborough so far. What do you love about what you do?
What I love about what we do is the energy you have every day when you're building something and creating something, and it's not only having a positive impact on your life, but it's having a positive impact on the people that are using the platform. That's really, really energizing. but also the impact that it's having on the people that either use the platform in terms of the food businesses and then also their customers. In fact, one of the things at the moment that I'm getting a real kick out of, we've built some functionality that lets people that are on the NDIS and home care packs purchase meals from cooks that are using the platform, and we've had some really emotional feedback from people on the NDIS that through our platform they're now able to access locally made wholesome food. It's delivered to their door once a week. Often it's delivered by the cook or someone involved in the business, and the connection that they get there. So it's things like that I love. It's the team that we've built that I mentioned that I love, and I get a kick out of their passion and connection. And I also get a real, I get a real kick of energy around thinking where this can go. And that's not necessarily in the sense of how big can Cookaborough get, but more in the sense of how many home cooked meal businesses can now get up and running and start. And, this is foodies being able to start their micro businesses and provide meals to their local community, or how many local food stores that find it tough in the best of times, finding it really tough. How many of those can we get on board and show them that there's a new and smart way for them to grow their business? They're the types of things that I love. And I guess the summary of that is just building something and the unpredictability of each day and not knowing exactly where it's going and how it's going to turn out is sort of thrilling and exhilarating, and can also keep you awake at night, that's for sure. But I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, Nick, hats off to you with what you and the team have created there at Cookaborough. It's been an honour to have you on Deep in the Weeds today to hear just a part of your story. Please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Huck. Great to talk to you.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.